Okay, welcome back. My name is Melkey. I'm one of the instructors here on Frontend Masters. I'm also a content creator and I work for Twitch. I made this course called the Complete Course for Building Backend Web Apps with Go. And we've covered many different things in this course, like building your own server, an HTTP server, tests, an API layer, etc., etc. However, there are just some things we couldn't cover in the 2-day workshop. And this is going to be a set of tutorials where we follow up with some sub-modules that can help give more substance to the course as follow-ups. Now, if you just watched the previous tutorial, we just added versions into our workout schemas to give us optimistic concurrency locking, and we also added SQL query timeouts. And in this one, we're going to briefly go over how to add concurrency into your projects, because for a lot of people, when they think of Go, they think of concurrency. But I want to first talk about some misconceptions about concurrent programming and really what is concurrency. Now, if you want to follow along, I recommend getting the Frontend Masters Project Live workshop. It is on GitHub, so go ahead and check it out, give it a star. But if we talk about concurrency, there's a really good talk here by Rob Pike, one of the tech leads for Go when it was first originating back in 2005 over at Google, where he talks about concurrency is not parallelism. And I think this is a very common misconception. I highly recommend everyone to read and listen to this talk, but Rob kind of gives a overview that a lot of people believe that when you create concurrent programming, you're automatically parallelizing the tasks of your program, when that is simply not the case. What concurrency allows us to do is allows us, if possible, to parallelize different functions in our application using goroutines. And you can see here, a goroutine is a function running independently in the same address space as other goroutines, meaning you can have separate goroutines running and firing off in your application, and they can be executed in parallel. And so I know some of the feedback I got from this course was, how did you not cover concurrency, right? When you think of Go, you think of concurrency, and really the simple answer is there was no need to add concurrency into our application. Everything was running fairly straightforward, and there wasn't any bottlenecks or operations that we can do while we wait for other operations to complete. And so one area that I could really think of is in the create workout function in our workout_store.go file. We are inserting all these sub entries in this for loop, right? We're going for_entry in workout.entries, when I think it makes a pretty good case that we can run each of these inserts in concurrent executions. And so the first thing I want to do is add a channel. And a channel in Go is simply just a mechanism for different routines, different Go routines to communicate with each other. So as Rob Pike showcased in the presentation earlier, they're separate from one another. However, they can still communicate with something called channels. And the only channel we really need is something called an error channel. So in case something goes wrong, we can communicate that back to our main thread that's executing this function. So you can do make and then the channel keyword like so. And it's gonna be type error, and it's gonna be length of workout dot entries. Okay. And here we're going to do a wait group, which is going to be sync dot wait group. Oops. Wait group like so. Now, both of these aren't unused, and a channel simply is going to take our buffer channel of the amount of entries we have in our workout, and then we're going to use this wait group to help us kind of control the cadence of all the subroutines we're going to create within this for loop here. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to add a new channel. So you can see here, adds delta, which may be negative, to the wait group counter. If the counter becomes 0, all go routines blocked on wait group.wait are released. If the counter goes negative, add panics. Okay, so we're going to basically tell it that we're adding a new routine to our wait group like so for every entry that we go through. Okay, and then the main part is going to be this go func, and this is kind of the magic of what allows us to create these very light Go routines in our application, because it's basically just two keywords, go and func. And we're going to pass it a argument called entry, and this is going to be of type workout entry. I'm going to have the body of our execution, and then over here we can just close it with the entry. And now within this go func, we can write the actual query that we want to insert into our database. And we want to always add a done, like so, a defer wait group done, meaning when this function is finished, or the body of this function is done. We're going to tell our wait group that we have actually finished, and you can update the counter of the actual wait group that's facilitating our application right now, or this function. Okay, so all I'm going to do is take this query, I'm going to paste it here like so, and I'm going to also take the query row and the error statement from below. I'm going to paste it in here, and now the only thing we need to do is modify this error, because we cannot return errors from our Go func. Because instead of erroring out or returning values from our Go routines, what we can do is actually communicate through our channel. So here, our channel, and the notion for sending communication into our channel is this arrow here. So it's going to be the this symbol and a dash, but put them together. Okay, my editor just makes it into this one arrow, and then we're going to pass in that error message into our error channel. Okay, now outside of our for loop here, we can do a few things. Wait group dot wait. You can see here, wait blocks until the wait group counter is 0. And just as a reminder, we were able to decrement our wait group with this defer wait group dot done in each of our Go routines here. And now we just need to close our error channel, making sure that we no longer accept any communication into that channel. And the last part is we need to now look through all the communication that we accumulated in that channel and see if any error message were sent. So we can do this by using a for loop. For error in range our error channel like so. Error does not equal to nil. Then we can just return nil, and that error like so, and the rest of the transaction stays the same here. So this is just kind of a very simple overview of when to use a concurrency in your application. However, a person who may know a bit of the intricacies of how this works would kind of realize that we are using one transaction here in this Postgres database begin thread. So we're not really going to gain any extra benefits from using this concurrent logic here. I would strongly recommend just to be mindful of when you use concurrency functions in your applications. Make sure you are aware of how your threads are running from your main.go routine. But really, concurrency and the way I showed it is just to kind of get you started in the main components that are required, which is typically creating a channel to either process logic or errors, and then you have your wait groups and the actual Go func that processes the function in a separate Go routine, and then we use the channel to look for any errors and make sure we wait for our wait group to close. So I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial of how we touched on concurrency in the Go programming language. If you are interested in knowing more about Go, I highly recommend the complete course for building backend web apps with Go. The response has been really great and positive, and I'll see you guys in the next one.